Following the Milwaukee Bucks waiving and stretching Damian Lillard's contract over the next 5 seasons, he is now on the free agency market, and the Celtics are reportedly on a short list of teams looking to sign Dame time. So on today's show, we're going to break down the prospect of signing Damian Lillard with the Boston Celtics, as he might not be even on the court in 25-26, much like Jayson Tatum. We'll get into all that in just a moment, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel because all the Celtics rumors this offseason are being covered right here at Celtics Today. And we are just 35 subs away from our next milestone of 53,000 subscribers. So could I ask that 35 diehard Boston Celtics fans go down below and hit that big red sub button? It's completely free Boston Celtics coverage all year long, so lock us in for your number one source for Celtics content on YouTube. All right, this came from Marc J. Spears on Damian Lillard's free agency. Now, he says, not surprisingly, league sources said, Lillard received calls from several contending teams quickly after the news of the Bucks ending broke. League sources say the Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics, and Los Angeles Lakers are known to be among the many teams that would have interest in doing a deal sooner rather than later. I think that ending of Marc J. Spears' quote here is something of note. And it is interesting that Lillard is such a hot commodity at this point. We know Dame Time is an automatic Hall of Famer at this point in his career, but, it looks kind of murky for the remainder of his NBA lifespan, as he just suffered that torn Achilles in the postseason in the first round against Indiana, and it's looking very shaky as to whether or not he'll be available at all for the entirety of next season and in the next postseason as well. But, we know Damian Lillard is that guy, right? Like, he's one of the best scorers of our generation at that guard position. And look, I'll be honest, the Milwaukee Bucks tenure in the 1 year or the 2 years that he was a part of the team, they weren't exactly the best of his career. Career lows and efficiencies back in 2023-24. It just wasn't exactly the 1-2 punch that Milwaukee had hoped for when they made the big swing to find Giannis a co-star. Now Lillard is found on the free agency market, and who knows what kind of contract that he will command on the open market right now. I would assume it's something in the realm of a veteran minimum. Like, it can't be a team's willing to give $5-10 million away to Dame if he's just going to be out there on the bench all of next season. But Marc Spears did say that there is, quote-unquote, speculation that Lillard could return after the All-Star break in 2026. Look, I'm not so sure that I'm buying that 100%, but if he is able to come back and maybe play, a spot 10 minutes and hit a couple threes for you, like, maybe that could be worth exploring. But in the Boston Celtics case, I'm not so sure that Lillard will even want to come to Boston in a sense, because they don't look to be contending next season. Is it going to be a 2-year deal while Dame is still getting paid $22.5 million each of the next 5 seasons from the Bucks? Maybe that would make sense for him to come, maybe rehab next to Jayson Tatum. But, with what the Celtics roster looks like right now, like, I'm not so sure that Dame's going to want to come into this situation. It would more, to me, be about the rehab process than the prospect of ever seeing the court with the Boston Celtics if he were to sign this offseason. So we'll go over like the Celtics side of things and the Dame side of things a little bit more in depth in just a moment. My question to you is this: should the Celtics sign Damian Lillard, yes or no? It would be a vet minimum contract here, and who knows if he would ever actually wear Boston Celtics green on the basketball court. But in the sense of having him around the locker room and helping him in his recovery process, should the C's sign Damian Lillard for the low this offseason, yes or no? Let me know in the comments section. Look, from Dame's perspective, I don't hate it. Like, I know you'd probably want to go to a situation where they're probably closer to winning a championship next season, but we know what the kind of competitor that Dame is, and I'm not so sure that he would want to even get a pity ring in a way, right? Like be on the bench all of next season and into the postseason. If that team is lucky enough to win the championship, Dame gets a ring, but he wasn't exactly a part of it. So looking at it from the medical side of things and how Dame's going to recover from this torn Achilles, because he is 34 years old. It's all in all likelihood the next time that he steps in the basketball court, he'll be 36 years old if he ever gets out there at all again. So look at it from Dame's perspective. Why not go to a spot where this team's in a little bit of a similar situation that you are with Jayson Tatum and his rehab from his torn Achilles? A Tatum and Dame rehab journey together would actually kind of be cinema. Like, if they got to document it a little bit and see these two, future Hall of Famers recover from what many people believe is a career-ending basketball injury. So if these two got to kind of go through the whole process together, and from the mental side of things, that's really a positive as well, because like I said, this is a damning injury and has a real black cloud over it. If your name is not Kevin Durant, so like it's not an easy injury to come back from. Maybe these two together could help each other, just at least make the recovery process a little bit more smooth on the mind and physically. Hopefully, they can both come back onto the basketball court at full strength. But then I look at it from the business side of things for Boston. And the Celtics are already back above the second apron after making the signing of Josh Minott yesterday. So I'm not so sure that they're necessarily going to be willing to shell out big-time tax penalties in order to sign Damian Lillard here. And if they even were going to make Dame, a player on this Boston Celtics roster at this point, they already have 15 players on the books, so they'd have to make some moves in order to do so. And we heard from Brian Robb of Mass Live that could be coming very, very soon. The bigger thing to watch, though, and this is after the Josh Minott signing, is the financials with Boston. The Celtics are still roughly $20.1 million over the luxury tax line, and it makes no sense to be that deep into the tax with the type of roster construction, and Tatum expected to miss the entire season, especially for a repeater tax team. Boston has to dump more salary, and they need to start doing it sooner rather than later, since dumping $20 million during the season will not be an easy task, with multiple avenues to move money more likely to dry up. And that makes a lot of sense, right? And we keep hearing sooner rather than later, right? So keep your eyes peeled and make sure you are subscribed to the channel and those notifications are on, because when the Celtics make a move, we make a video. And as far as the prospect of Dame goes, though, like, cutting $20 million is not going to be easy. I think that the Celtics want to get under the luxury tax entirely this offseason, and they're not going to go into the luxury tax in order to sign Damian Lillard, who's not even going to be out there on the floor for them next season. So I really do not think that it's a high likelihood that Boston ends up signing Lillard. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say he ends up with the Golden State Warriors, who not only have a little bit more tax flexibility, but they also have a world-renowned team medical staff with Rick Celebrini over there, who does great work in the recovery process and in the advisory role over there on their medical staff. Plus, Dame is from the Bay Area. He's an Oakland guy, so it would be a little bit of a homecoming for him. Wouldn't have to travel much to see his family throughout the season if he is going to sign with a team this upcoming year. I think it would make sense a lot for him to head to Golden State. So with the Celtics case, like, they're not going to go in the luxury tax to acquire Damian Lillard here, and it's already going to be more difficult enough to get $20 million off of their books. A couple ways they could do that are waiving J.D. Davison, who they just accepted the team option for. They could probably get off of that money. I'm sure it won't go into effect until July 6th. Trading Anthony Simons. That is something that is probably going to need to happen in order for the Celtics to get under the tax line. He makes $27 million, and are you going to get off $12 million straight up, or maybe more with the Simons trade? I'm not so sure how likely that is at this point, with all the free agency signings already being in the works here throughout the league, and not a lot of money able to be absorbed around the NBA as well. So who knows how much money you can actually get off of by trading Anthony Simons. We'll have to wait and see on that. George Niang, $8.2 million. There's a couple of trade exceptions around the league that he could fit into, as well as some teams still holding the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. Maybe, I'm not so sure a team would be willing to absorb Niang into that on an expiring deal, but they would be willing to probably absorb Sam Hauser into that mid-level exception slot. He makes $10 million, but the Celtics have been reportedly wanting to keep Sam Hauser a part of their core for years to come, as he is on a 4-year, $45 million contract, a plus 40% three-point shooter, and an underrated defender as well. The Celtics want to keep Hauser, so it doesn't look like he'll be on the move. They're really going to try to trade two of the new guys they got back in the Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis moves. Now, coming up next, we're going to examine how the Celtics kind of do that and look at the next championship window for Boston, when Jayson Tatum comes back and when the Celtics are ready to compete once again. There looks like to be a 2+ year window in the next couple of seasons where the Celtics could potentially just mold the rest of this roster around, and we could be looking at a new look Boston Celtics contending roster. We'll get into that in just a moment, but make sure you guys get hooked up with the good times back in 2024 when we were lifting the Larry O.B. and the confetti was falling down from the TD Garden. Go get yourself a commemorative Boston Celtics 2024 championship shirt with the stars caricatures on there. This was nearly a $40 shirt, and it's now only $17 with our friends over at Fanatics, and you guys can get it at this link right here, chatsports.com/champ-sale. This is the deal with our friends over at Fanatics, and we get a commission every single time you guys click this link and buy one of these shirts. So they got all the sizes available, and you guys can get this for the low right now. Chatsports.com/champ-sale. I put that link at the top of the description and in the comments section, so you guys can easily click it and go get yourself a discounted Boston Celtics 2024 championship shirt today. Look, do whatever it takes to get out of the tax until the 2027 off season. So With that being said, this upcoming season, you're not looking to be a contender really by any means, even in the weak Eastern Conference, with the way that your front court looks and just a lack of depth, lack of real NBA depth overall on the roster. This is going to be about a player development year. So you do whatever it takes to get out of the tax until 2027 for the next 2 seasons. You get the 2026-27 year. That's where JT comes back, starts getting a little bit acclimated back into basketball life. Really, you could even argue that 2026-27 is a gap year if Tatum is not at 100%. And then we look at the summer of 2027 as the revamp year with that core of Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard, and Hauser. And then we start getting pieces around it here as Chris Forsberg of NBC Sports Boston kind of laid out what Boston's 2027 summer is going to look like, saying the following. The Celtics currently project to enter the summer of 2027 with only Tatum, Brown, White, Hauser, and Pritchard on the roster at a total of $176.3 million. Add in Baylor Shireman, who I really hope takes a step here and becomes part of that rotation. And you're looking at $181 million. Now, and when the second apron could be closer to $244 million, the Celtics currently project to be real spenders around that summer. Boston could comfortably field a roster in the neighborhood of $300 million for 2 consecutive seasons without costly repeater penalties. So in 2027, they can go back into the tax and nearly right up to that second apron, even above it, while they were remaining a title contender. Brown and White could reach free agency at the end of that second season, creating a potential pathway to the next pivot in the summer of 2029. So you'll have the 2027-28 season. You have the 2028-29 season. And that looks like the 2-year title window from 2027 to 2029 when Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are probably at the peak of their NBA powers. Granted, Tatum comes back from this Achilles injury at 100%, near the level of play that he was at pre-injury. So it could be more than 2 years, but it really, with this new CBA and the way the money works around the league, you got to be looking at these championship windows in short spurts. Celtics just had a 2-year window in 23-24 and 24-25. Couldn't get it done in the back-to-back season, but it is very difficult to go back in this league. We're looking to get another title here for JB and JT in this 2-year window in 2027 to 2029, and hopefully they can make all that happen and make the right moves and have their books cleared up in that 2027 summer. Now, until then, it's about player development. This is about finding another diamond in the rough. This is about finding another Luke Cornett. With expanded opportunity this next season, can Luka Garza see an expanded role and expanded production and become that Luke Cornett type of player? Not saying the same archetype overall, but can he be a positive contributor enough on the basketball court in order to warrant being a rotation piece when the Celtics have that next contending roster? It's about player development with a guy like Josh Minott, who has not seen much experience in his NBA career to this point. Uber athletic, can defend, super long wingspan, nearly 7 feet for a 6'8" player. What can you get out of him? Like, what about Baylor Shireman? What about the rookies like Hugo Gonzalez? I'd assume by 2028-29, he is going to be a winning player in this league. So it's about player development until then. See who can actually be a legitimate contributor in this league. And then when JT is back to 100%, you're back into contention. You can make a bunch of signings around this league with a lot of flexibility in that summer of 2027. When I'd presume that the free agent crop is a whole heck of a lot better than it was in 2025. So with that being said, the Celtics also have draft capital to maneuver trades as well if they're not going to go totally free agent route. Like there's ways to build rosters in this league. More often than not, it actually comes via trade these days, it seems. So the Celtics are going to have ammo at their disposal when that summer of 2027 comes around. Look, these next 2 years might not be the prettiest for Celtics fans, but you got to accept it that things take time in this league, and when you are a contender, you got to kind of flush out your books, not be a tax repeater for a couple of seasons, and then try to get another championship window for JT and JB when they're crossing that 30 years old threshold. So with that being said, it might be a tank season in 2026. And maybe potentially it's the 26-27 season as well, in order to spend big in that summer. Would you, quote-unquote, tank next season to get a good draft pick, more legitimate contributors for the future of the Boston Celtics in order to be a super contender in 27-28 and 28-29? Type Y for yes, type N for no. You let me know what you think down in the comments section. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because whatever happens this offseason, as I think Brad Stevens is going to make some more moves here in the next week or so. We will cover it all for you here at Celtics Today. So subscribe, youtube.com/CelticsTV. We'll see you guys on the next one. And as always, let's go C's.